In episode 4, as they make their way to the Horn of Africa, Ben decided to take a shortcut, but it backfired. There's a blockage on the track. But the blockage isn't going to be able to be easily removed. It's 4 train cars from Big Alice that Wilfred bailed on. He did it so they could conserve heat, and energy, and food, and all of that. But now they're basically bolted to the track. Alex and Ben call down to Layton to find out what he wants to do about it. But Layton is in first class, along with Asha answering a bunch of questions from people about New Eden. When Layton gets word that he's needed, that kind of ends the conversation. It's a good thing because Zara's story's already cracking a little bit. As Layton is leaving first class, he sees Pike on the staircase and he says, "You're late." But Pike says, "You didn't invite me." Layton tells him, "You're days late. We could really use you. You stepped up as a leader, and people could really use you if you let them." Pike makes his way down the staircase and tells Layton, "While you were gone, we lost both Last Australians and Mama Grande to the flu, and then you show back up and we lose Strong Boy." Layton says may they rest easy, but Pike is still annoyed. He looks at Layton as the leader who left them. So that relationship isn't really any better. Layton then gets up to the engine room and gets the details on what is blocking the track. The alternative is just going back the other way, and that's going to take far too long. They need to move those cars. The only way to disengage these clamps is to actually board the cars, power them up, and then manually disengage them. Alex immediately says, "I'll go." But Ben tells her he's going with her. It's going to be a 2-engineer job, and Javi can drive the train and then come pick them back up. Both Alex and Ben put on the suits, get everything they need, and they head out to the cars. Oh, I should mention that Alex is having full-blown conversations with Melanie. Or Melanie's ghost, at least. And she's not the only one, because Wilfred is doing the exact same thing as he tries to figure out where they are on the track from prison. After he left the engine, Layton heads to go hang out with Zara, and he starts telling Zara about his dream of New Eden, everything it details. But that doesn't mean he isn't concerned about the fact that he might be wrong, and Zara reminds him, "Yeah, but what if you're right?" After he wraps up with Zara, he has a lunch date with Asha. Asha is still getting reacclimated to just eating normal food. Layton turns over his shoulder and notices that Dr. Pelton is under the dining car. So he goes and talks to her, and this isn't a coincidental run-in. Dr. Pelton tells Layton that she was sidelined for Zara's pregnancy. Dr. Hedwood took over. Pelton snooped around and found Zara's file, and in it, she finds the reason that she was sidelined. It's because Wilfred had Dr. Hedwood inject the baby with cold treatment, the same stuff they gave Josie. When Layton finds out that Wilfred was experimenting on his unborn baby, he snaps. The first person he goes and yells at is Dr. Hedwood. Dr. Hedwood promises him that her treatment is going to work, but he starts screaming at her, "What about our consent?" And that's when Dr. Hedwood says, "You probably should go talk to Zara." And when Layton does, he's shocked to find out that Zara did consent to it. She figures everybody has to adapt or die. They start getting an argument about her real motives. Was it for the baby, or was it for her own protection? Protection she probably needed because Layton wasn't there. It gets really heated. The argument only ends when they get a phone call telling them that Layton's needed in the engine. Now, while all of that drama was going on with Layton, Till went and woke up a buddy, Roach. Unfortunately for Roach, Anne didn't make it when they tried to wake her up from the drawers. Because of that, he's having a tough go of it. He's drinking a lot and being an absentee father to his daughter, Carly, who is a teenager. And, teenagers normally hate their dad, but because he's not around, it's even worse than normal. Till figures she needs to help her friend cope, so she takes him to the drawers. Roach asks for a minute alone, but it's not to grieve or to take it all in, it's to steal medical equipment. Because Roach wants payback. After she leaves Roach alone, Till heads to the night car, where she sees Asha. The night car has been turned back into a nightclub. And at first, Asha is loving it. She's taking it all in, having a blast, but then it becomes too much. She makes her way to the back, where that private room is that Audrey used to help people remember things in. Unfortunately for Asha, the things she's remembering are horrific. It's her having to fight off attackers and really fight for her life. Till checks on her, and Asha tells her, "I just don't think I was worth saving. I might implode." Till tells her that everybody feels that kind of guilt. She understands what kind of pressure Asha's under, and Asha cuts her off and says, "I'm not going to spill the lie. I can see what New Eden does for everybody, and their psyche and their souls." Till then escorts Asha back to her quarters. But back with the engine, Leighton was called there for a reason, and it wasn't just to catch up and chit-chat. It was because Ben and Alex have hit a roadblock of their own. First of all, their whole mission's been a mess. Alex, having lived on Big Alice, knew exactly what they were walking into, and what they were walking into is basically a crypt. When Wilfred dropped those cars, he didn't drop them empty. People were on them, and thus people were frozen to death and died right away. Alex knew some of those people. She was saved by Wilfred, which made her feel chosen, but it didn't take away the pain that she dealt with because she had a best friend on that car. And going back to that car, seeing her best friend's bunk, seeing her best friend's body has done a lot to her. She feels immensely guilty. Ben, though, gets her back on track with the mission at hand. Some of the cars they're able to detach right away. There's one, however, that appears to be blocked. Alex's theory is that that one car has always been a lemon. It's constantly breaking down. That's one of the reasons why Wilfred dropped it when he did. But because of that, they might have to ask Wilfred because he might know how to detach it. It's something that nobody really wants to do. Ask that guy for help. Leighton heads down to Wilfred's cell and says, Ben, I'll patch him through. But when Leighton gets there, Wilfred is not doing well. Because that payback that I talked about with Roach, he got it. He showed up in his brakeman outfit, heads down to where they're keeping Wilfred, opens the cell, and then injects him. Wilfred feels it right away. He's loopy as hell, and you figure whatever Roach injected him with could eventually kill him. About a minute after Wilfred's injected, Leighton comes down, sees him writhing on the ground, and asks Roach, what the hell happened? And Roach says, I gave him a dose of his own medicine. Leighton gets down and starts smacking Wilfred's face, trying to revive him, saying he would love to watch him die, but they need him at the moment. Even in his loopy state, Wilfred says, oh, you found the cars. Leighton explains he will save him if he gives him the information he needs, but Wilfred doesn't give any information and asks Leighton, how's Zara and our child? And when he says that, Leighton starts screaming at him, don't ever go near my family again. At this point, Till has made it down, and she wants to know what the hell happened. Leighton quickly fills her in, tells her, get Roach out of here, and get me Dr. Pelton immediately. When Leighton looks back at Wilfred, he is passed out. He has no other choice. He has to call up to Javi in the engine room and tell him they need to abort the mission. It's worth mentioning, by the way, that while Wilfred and Alex have been talking to the ghost of Melanie, Javi is still traumatized by that dog. It seems like every time he turns around, he sees him, even though the dog isn't there. When Javi relays Leighton's message, Alex and Ben don't take it well. They need more time. Ben yells to Javi, get Leighton back on the line, but Javi is too distracted. He feels like that dog is breathing down his neck, even though it's a figment of his imagination. Alex refuses, though, to give up. Even as Ben is packing up to leave, Alex is still trying to figure out how to unhook these cars. She gets that help from the ghost of Melanie. Through Melanie's guidance, she's able to face her fears of being back in that car and uncouple the train. This allows them to clear the track and Snowpiercer to continue on to the Horn of Africa. When she gets back on the train, Alex also faces her fears about Wilfred. She admitted to the ghost of Melanie that she missed him, and it's understandable. Wilfred was kind of like a father figure, even though he was sick and twisted and a narcissist. So as Wilfred is hanging on by a thread in the medical bay of Snowpiercer, Alex is sitting there right by his side. Oh, and finally, Ruth and Pike hooked up. They went out for some Bananas Foster, and then they had adult fun. So good for them. At least somebody's getting laid on that train. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought this sucked. Make sure to be nice in the comments section. If you don't see the next video up in the end screen there, I'll get it up in a few days, not to worry. And I have merchandise, so go buy a mug or something. It's never too early to think about Christmas gifts, folks. Once again, thank you for checking out this recap.